Hey, what's up? It's your brother Charles Jenkins, and I've got 6 minutes. I want to talk about the cleansing. Have you ever heard somebody say, um, "I need my soul cleansed," or "I need to clear my head," or "I just don't feel right"? Um, there's an amazing story in Luke chapter number 8, which paints this amazing picture of what it means to experience a cleansing from the inside out. Sometimes they're thoughts or their ideas or their feelings that can enter our lives that are completely wrong. Sometimes, you know, it could be unbeknownst to us and we can have no idea. But there are moments, real moments, where there are thoughts or ideas or feelings or emotions or desires that enter in and take us captive and sometimes drive us to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, be the wrong places. And it's the human factor, right? Some people are not honest enough to admit it or engage it or embrace it, or some people spend more time focusing on what other people are doing than they are themselves, and being honest to embrace the fact that they're being driven to maybe speak in a way that we shouldn't or act in a way that we shouldn't. But at the end of the day, in Luke chapter number 8, verses 26 through 39, it's a beautiful story of what it means to experience a cleansing, and to know that God can move out thoughts and feelings and ideas out of our lives that sometimes are very wrong and lead us to be very wrong and do things that are very wrong. It's a story about a guy named Legion who lives in the cemetery. He has been stripped of his clothes. He cuts on himself. He is often thrown to the ground and all types of terrible things. And the scripture says in Luke 8, verse number 29 of the passage, that there are unclean spirits in him that have seized him. Another translation says spirits that have entered into his life. Demons, the scripture describes it. Well, at the end of the day, as I've studied that word demon out, there are a multiplicity of definitions, but one of them is evil spirit or evil force, which says this, that evil spirits or evil forces entered into his life and drove him to a life of evil. Where here's the deal. The amazing thing about this story is that when we hear about Legion, those of us that have maybe heard about him or heard him preached or heard stories about him, we distance ourselves from him significantly. And quite often, as we see him, we don't see ourselves. But the amazing thing that I saw as you keep reading through the passage, that Jesus, at a specific point in verse number 39, after Legion is healed up, Jesus says, return home after he's healed, your own home. And that word return jumps out, which says to me that Legion didn't always live in the cemetery. He wasn't always cutting on himself. He wasn't always comfortable among dead things or dead people. Once upon a time, he was home with a regular schedule, a regular life, and evil spirits entered into his life and drove him away from his family, from everything right, from everything good, from a normal flow, which says to me that any of us can be filled or evil spirit can enter in, whether it's fear, whether it's doubt, whether it's sin, and it can enter in and drive us away. But the scripture says that Jesus commanded, verse number 29, he commanded the evil, the unclean spirits to leave the man. And the scripture says that the unclean spirits left out of the man. And on the backdrop of the unclean spirits leaving out of the man, the scripture says that this same man, in verse number 35, God enabled him to have his right mind. He is fully in his right state of mind. The people who knew him don't even recognize him. So at the end of the day, as you think about Legion and this whole idea of what it means to be so distant, know that evil spirits can enter into our lives. Every day the prayer has got to be for a cleansing, whether it's a spirit of grief or a spirit of fear or a spirit of doubt or any spirit of unrighteousness, whether it's lust or whether it's jealousy or hatred or malice or envy or adultery or whatever the spirit is across the board. The prayer has got to be for a cleansing, because life will cause any of us to experience a reduction, to be reduced to a lesser version of ourselves. But if we can be cleansed, as Jesus says to this man, I want you to return home. I want the best you to be experienced by the people who experience the worst you. I want your community to experience the best you that I want them to see and know. And so know that God's got cleansing available for you, for me, for all of us, so the world can experience the best you, the best me. Much love.